Welcome back to the Troubleshooting Life podcast. I'm your host, Jay Peters, my co-host, Craig Posen, where we talk about various topics, sharing our experiences on life and finances. What's going on, man?
What's up?
Nothing much. Yeah, another week, another podcast.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, we're rocking with it.
Yeah. So how was your week, man?
It wasn't too bad, man. Like I said, just working from the office nowadays, just kind of doing anything I can to kind of stay busy and get things updated. It's actually becoming a lot more, right? Because I'm trying to pick up other team stuff, and it's. I think I'm just kind of just trying to pile on as much as I can so that I can actually feel like I'm doing stuff. Because I feel like if I have too little on my plate, then I'm not doing anything. But when I have like a lot on my plate, then I'm like, okay, yeah, I'm actually doing something. Granted, nothing on that plate's leaving, but it feels like I'm doing something, I guess. I don't know.
Yeah, no, I know exactly what you're talking about. Sometimes though, I think we have to realize that to be doing work, you don't always have to feel like you're doing work all the time. You can be more successful, right? If you can actually plan everything out where it didn't, what is the word I'm trying to say? It made you feel like you're overwhelmed. You know how you're like, if I'm overwhelmed, I know I'm busy, right? But then like if things are smooth, you go like, I must be not doing anything. But then if you're getting your work done and you're executing the mission effectively, then things, you can't think things are bad or think things are saying, hey, I'm not busy, I need more work.
Or inadequate.
Yeah. Like I'm inefficient right now, I'm not doing something, but in reality, I mean, at the time that could be just what is needed,
man, I don't know, in the military, man, if you're not doing anything, they're gonna find something for you to do. So
but now you talk about military, that's different, right? That's different. Sure. So you can actually look busy. You don't be doing a damn thing.
That's true. That's no doubt.
So you can't ever go off of that. Yeah, but you are right. Yeah, they will try to task you if you seem like you're an extra hand around there. Yeah, they're gonna task you with some random stuff. I learned that early. That's why I took in the shop that I was in, I just took on extra roles because I was like, I'd rather do what I like to do than doing something I don't like to do.
No, exactly. Yeah, no, I feel the exact same way. Trying to define what you can do instead of someone just constantly telling you what to do. How about your week, man?
Yeah, it was okay. Took some days off, did get some rest in. Just clearing the head, trying to see where I want to go next, what should I do next, Because if you don't take that mental break, then you'll forget your goals. How same thing you're saying about staying busy all the time. You stay busy all the time, then you'll forget what you were planning to do because you were too busy. But if you slow yourself down enough to like, okay, this is my real goals. This is what I was after. This is why I'm doing this. Right.
Yeah.
And then you don't make these irrational decisions based off emotions. You're actually, sitting down and making logical, strategic planning, like to get to the next step of where you're going.
I think someone coined it where it was like it's called slowing down to speed up, right? Yeah. And what that means is like you said, where you're taking on so much or so many things is happening, but you should kind of slow down, kind of contemplate it, kind of strategize, and then take those opportunities to do your strategy or execute on your strategy, right? Instead of just constantly go. Just take a second. Like, it doesn't have to be a long time, right? I'm not saying take an entire month to do it, but just take a few hours in the day, just kind of contemplate like what is the strategy for the day, what's the strategy for the week, and kind of just execute on that. And like you said, because if you don't, then when something unexpected comes up, you're like, oh, I don't know what to do, and then you just make maybe a poor decision because you did not plan for everything.
I mean, that what I'm trying to say, that mental pause actually really helps you. It helps you in the long run, right? You're actually, taking care of self, right? And like I said, for this one, I took a couple of days and just, it quiets the noise, right? When I'm not around all the chaos, you get a chance to quiet the noise. And so you can actually figure things out, okay, because you can have people telling you stuff, or you can see stuff, or things make you angry. But then it's like, if you stop and just think for a second, okay, Why am I angry? Okay. All right. So that has nothing to do with what I really want to do. Okay. Why am I here? Okay. All right. I'm here because of this. Oh, all right. So it's not for any other reason, but it's for this, right? So you have that list of goals that you already know you've written out. You already planned it. Because I plan out some long goals. I try not to go too farther than 5 or 6 years, because if you go too far, time is gonna adjust those goals for you. Like you don't, you can make the plan, you can say you're gonna do this, but time always tells the truth. Like it's gonna adjust it for you.
Yeah, and it can be like what do they say in Fast and Furious before it got all crazy? They take a quarter mile at a time.
Yeah.
Right. Like stop trying to see so incredibly far, right? But just take the next step.
Yeah.
Right. Because when you're trying to look so far, and I'm not saying you can't have that vision, you can't have that sight into whatever you want your future to be. Yeah. But what I'm saying is that don't always just like focus so much on it, because there's going to be times when you feel like you're not following that and you're going to end up tripping. Yeah. Right. Because you can't actually see it. But then what you can see is the step right in front of you, right? Yeah. So just keep taking that first step, or that right step in front of you, instead of trying to cloud your mind or cloud your judgment of whatever's too far.
Yeah, because it will. I think I was hearing that on another podcast. When you keep looking down the road so much, that over time it's like losing interest, right? Yeah. You don't feel the same about, that emotion you had when you wrote that goal down is not the same anymore. But if you were to keep that long goal, but do like short check-ins with that same goal, kind of like, consistently, and it would help you meet that long-term goal. So it's like if you did an adjustment every 3 months or 6 months, right, that's for that long-term goal, then it's a chance that you'll still achieve it. That's because you're like, it's kind of like you're reintroducing it back to yourself again. Something. What is it? Because somebody else mentioned this to me, right? I had these, I told them about my goals, and then they reminded me. So what about your 3-month goal, right? Or or your
milestones,
90 day. I think they called it a 90-day goal or something like that. And it was basically to kind of keep you on track, Yeah. So I thought that was a good thing that he mentioned. Plus, I think he was wise anyway. He was a chaplain. Chaplains always, what I'm saying, they're a little wise.
Yeah. Oh, chaps, man.
Yeah.
I will say for this week, like my workouts have definitely been a lot better. And I think like what I started focusing on, like, of course, consistency, right? But instead of just going through the motions, I've been focusing a lot on intensity of the workout. And I'm not saying I'm like going on like Arnold or like Hans and Franz, like just bust them out. But I'm really focusing on how much energy I'm putting towards a workout, right? Yeah. So, and when I started doing this thing, I call it empty the bucket, but that was someone else's thing. But just kind of like, if I have a little energy left after the workout, then I'm going to do something to kind of drain it, right? Like do like a HIIT workout, do like a bunch of burpees, whatever it is, right? And then I also started doing this thing where I haven't started doing this thing, but I will, because I just started it like I think yesterday, where I want to do the most uncomfortable thing or thing I'm not fond of first. Yeah. So for example, I'm not a big fan of cardio. So, but for me to do cardio, or I guess for me to deserve to lift weights, because I enjoy lifting weights, is that I'm going to do cardio first, right? So, because like I said, I want to do something that I'm not comfortable with, but I know that will still help me with the gains or goals that I want, and then do the things that I enjoy as after it, right? But work for that enjoyment, right? Stop doing the things you enjoy and then kind of like cutting off all the other stuff that you need to do or should be doing as well.
Yeah, no, that's cardio. That's something I always do anyway. Like before, it's kind of like my warm up, right? Mm-hmm. Before I start weights, I'll hit the elliptical or the bike or the treadmill or whatever, right? And it's the warm up, and you maybe do 10 minutes, 10 minutes on the elliptical, and that literally is to get that blood flowing, get the sweat going. Then after that, then you can just hit whatever weight. That's how I do it, because then I can, like I told you before, I'll do the thing where I focus on a certain muscle group, which I need to get back into that. Because usually, to me, I saw better results when I did that versus doing the full body workout. gotta do the
Yeah,
full body workout. It's good for you, but
it is. Yeah.
when I saw more muscle definition when I did single focus, like
Yeah.
hey or the muscles needed for whatever exercise I'm trying to do,
Yeah. Yeah. No, I agree with that as well. And, I mean, of course, it depends on the person and stuff, right? So,
Yeah,
like, but for like my typical warm up, I typically do like calisthenics
yeah.
beforehand. So, like, knock out some pull ups, some push ups, some dips and stuff,
Oh,
just
okay.
to kind of get that flowing. And
Some
then
more
I'll,
endurance. Yeah.
yeah. And then like what I actually started doing was I'll do like 100 crunches, do 80 push-ups, try to do 60 pull-ups, but it's more like
Yeah.
40. And then do like 40 dips and stuff, and then go into my workout because I can knock that out fairly quickly. I would say within 10 minutes or
Yeah.
so, I could probably knock it out. Um,
Oh, okay. Yeah, I probably would have took the whole 30 minutes to the hour, because that would have turned into a hit workout. What you just
yeah,
described was a hit workout.
yeah.
And then I would have been done for the day. I'm like, all right,
Yeah.
we're good. All right, I got my 60 minutes in.
Yeah. But no, I mean, like crunches, those aren't like much of anything. Now the pull-ups are probably the ones that really, really challenge me, like,
Yeah.
or at least especially with time, because like I can knock out at least 10 in one go, but after that 10, then it's down to like six, and then after that six, it's down to like three, and then
Yeah.
after that three, it just like stays at around three for like the rest of them. So yeah, I'm hurting after those other ones.
Yeah. All right. So, man, all right. Our topic for this week, right? It's going to be on budgeting, right? It's
Yeah,
going to learn to budget. All
yeah.
right. So we're starting this topic because we're going to do a series where it's going to be on credit.
Mhm.
And we had this request from a listener to kind of talk about credit, because there will be a lot of, I'm hoping a lot of people that are new to finance and want to
Yeah,
hear about how can they build their credit, or how can they maintain their credit, or things like
yeah,
that. Or if they mess up, how can they rebuild that credit, right?
yeah,
And
yeah.
the first thing in my mind, how a person should approach credit, is like, first you got to learn about your money, right?
Mm,
Understand what you have. And that's where the learn to budget kind of came to mind. And
yeah,
I thought that'd be a great start before we start our different series on credit.
yeah. Yeah, no, I definitely agree. And even if you're not new to finances and stuff, I think it's still good to kind of readjust. Like you said, a lot of people set those long-term goals or those further goals,
Yeah.
and they never really look back, right? So some people may start to budget, and then for some reason, they got comfortable, and maybe they're just so good at it that they don't, or they have everything kind of put in place to where they don't have to look at their budget. But I still think it's something that you need to kind of look at every so often and readjust as life goes on, right? So for me,
Yeah.
I readjust my entire budget by the end of the year, right? Because I can look at like the past years, like what those trends were,
Yeah.
and of course, general life, like inflation kind of goes on, right? Things start costing more, so I try to adjust or project those adjustments as well for this upcoming year.
Yeah. So I also wanted to start with, like, the definition of budget, right? Like,
Yeah,
me and you, we kind of have a good idea what budget actually means. But
right.
then I've been around certain people. They don't understand what the word budget mean, and they seem to think that it's always like putting yourself on a restriction. And
Oh yeah,
and
no,
I've
no.
heard it from multiple people. It's not like I've heard it from one person. I've heard it from multiple people, and they feel like you got to put your money on house arrest, where it can't go anywhere, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, but to me, I won't say to me. I'm actually look this up here. This is the actual Oxford definition for budget. They have an estimate of income and expenditures for a set period of time. Which, okay, I kind of figured that's what it was, right? And then
Yeah.
also they say it's a quantity of material, typically that which is written or printed. All right. And then also they have in there as a verb, allow to provide a particular amount of money in a budget. All right.
Mm.
Yeah. So I guess from like budgeting and we're using the
Yeah.
word in that sense, right? And then also we also know budget to also be known as cheap or inexpensive. So
Yeah.
that's the the other meaning. But in this sense, what we're talking about as a overview of your income, right? Or and your expenditures. Just kind of like keep a mental picture. Because what I do, I actually at the end of the month I like to budget, but my budget sheet is more like a financial statement because I put a little bit of everything on this thing, and then
Yeah.
I also have a column or section which tries to come up with my net what is that, my net income. I think that's what, not my net income, what do you call it? See, now I'm gonna have to pull it up just so I can
Sure.
and I keep it handy anyway, right? This is
Yeah.
but all in all, pulling up my financial statement. Yeah, so I get serious about it. I do it manually.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. I know that might be something that most people won't like to do. Yeah,
Yeah.
so
I'm seriously not manual. I can tell you that.
yeah, because you have different ways of doing it.
Yeah.
So yeah, net worth. Golly, I don't know why
Yeah.
I couldn't remember that. Net worth, right? So
Yeah.
I'll section my stuff off with net worth with income and net worth without my income for the month coming in. And it,
Yeah.
I'll have the net worth, just my assets, right? Assets and liabilities.
Yeah.
And it's just, and it probably is not totally accurate, but it still gives me still an overview, right? Like I can go through as much as I can through the things, but say if you use your credit card, that subtracts from your assets, but and then also if you hold a balance on anything, what is that, a loan, or if you hold a balance on a credit card, you hold a balance on your mortgage, all these things go against your assets, even though we say, hey, our house is an asset. It's an asset and a liability, right?
Yeah.
And then it's not true. It's not a true asset until you sell it, or till unless you're making monthly income off it from rental.
Yeah.
So that's why I say my overall sheet. It's more of an estimate to give me a mental picture. Also, when it comes to like shopping for things, because of how I budget, I like to categorize things. So I'm gonna categorize it in my mind. When I purchase something, I am like, okay, where is the money coming from? Or in my mind, is it a viable purchase to get, right? So say if I want to buy a TV, I know this is purely luxury, right? Or something just for me, right? So if I buy the TV, then I know I should pull the money knowing that is for that. So that's how I see, when I buy things, or using a budget to help me buy things. I don't know. What do you think about that?
I don't know. That's
it's a lot. It's a lot. Huh? I said a lot of stuff, right?
Yeah.
But I mean, it's like I said, in budgeting, it's a personal preference how you do it, right? If you do it digitally, right, you use mint.com, right? Yeah. Honestly, you can use your credit card, right? So say if you're a person, I know you're kind of like me. I won't use my debit card for if I use my debit card, it's a certain debit card I use, and it's only for spending cash. But my debit card that has my main check go in there meant for bills, and I use a credit card to represent that purchase, right, instead of a debit card. So if I charge something, I know that it's going to come out of that account eventually, Yeah. So that's the reason why I say I categorize it, got everything. And on your credit card, you can actually categorizes for you.
Oh,
yeah.
If you go to like a movie theater, it says movie and TV or whatever it is.
And then, so like you can go back and look, and it'll tell you, hey, you spent money here, here, and here. And you go like, what? I spent what X amount of dollars on eating out. You like, and now right? Because you actually paid attention. But if you don't pay attention, you don't try to budget these things, like, or look at it, an overview of it, you'll realize that, or you won't realize, that you spent your money on something that you really didn't need. And and I know some people think that, because you spent the money, you needed to spend the money. So that's why, they probably bother not to budget that.
I can kind of feel that. But, I kind of go into the like categories and stuff. I definitely, the way I do it, of course, like I said, I use Mint. I don't do the manual thing, but and I do categorize it, right? So like, I have the one for mortgage or rent. I have gas. I got groceries. I got insurance, like you name it, like anything. Like when I had a gym membership, I had a gym membership on there, right, that I was budgeting. And then of course there's stuff that doesn't fit all those categories and then kind of goes into the others, right?
Yeah.
But I still do keep the category or the categories and specific spending for the categories, and I try to readjust when I can. Like I said, during the year, or the beginning of the year, I try to readjust like what those actual caps are for the month, and then every week at least check it every week, right? I don't check it maybe every day, but I check it every week to just make sure I'm on track and stuff. And then luckily Mint, they kind of automated a lot of the things, and then every month on Mint it gives you like a little story, kind of like how I don't know, like Snapchat or Instagram, they have like their stories and stuff, but it kind of goes over like your net worth, it goes over where your a lot of your spending came out of, what cards or accounts your spending were on, and then it also like congratulates like if you spent like a number of days not spending any money, like if you didn't take any money out of your checking account, if you didn't use your credit cards or whatever it was, then it'll count those days, and then yeah, no, it kind of just summarizes the month for you, and I like it that way. I like the automated portion of it. And I kind of started doing it just to kind of, like you said, just to track money, right? Because I just wanted to be cognizant of where my money was going, and I didn't really know how to. And of course, I saw like a few other things online where you can kind of like you're doing, like you have your own like balance sheet or financial statement. But I was too lazy to do that, and so I just put everything to Mint. I just sync a lot of my accounts to Mint, and it can track your assets, it can track all your accounts, and it is not intrusive to your accounts. It just does like a little peek into your account to where it'll just get the balances. And it was just like a good habit that I started like years ago. And then it definitely came in handy when I didn't have money, when I was trying to budget, like the rent and the utilities and stuff. And then that's when I really realized, or it kind of visualized it for me, to where I was in a bad situation, or I noticed that my expenses were an incredible amount, or taking an incredible amount out of my income. So, and then that's what kind of made me try to make different choices on certain things, like the certain things that I buy, or the amount that I spend on luxuries and stuff. That's what kind of adjusted my mindset.
When I first really got into understanding budgets, it was because of the military. The first thing they did was send us to a finance class. And the reason why they did it is because we call it certain times training, right? We do this training to kind of keep your platoon or whoever your section, you try to keep it up to par on knowledge, right? Regardless if it's dealing with militaries, dealing with education, or like I said, finance, personal stuff, things that help you grow in some kind of way, right? And that's kind of like what our starting time training would be for. And this particular time, they actually had the finance people come out and give us a class on budgeting and using different tools. And one of the tools they talked about was mint.com. And that's how I kind of got into it. I liked it for the most part, but then certain things I didn't like about it. So that's why I ended up stopped using it, because it can become inaccurate if it doesn't log into the account right, stuff like that. So it was certain things I didn't like about it. And then the only reason why I went, like I said, more manual is because it's kind of like that, more of a pain, the pain I wanted to go through, so I can force myself to like, hey, look what you're doing. Look, yeah. But that's how I got into it. Like I said before, it was the military. I thought I was always good with money, but then when you start to realize certain things are not changing in your life, and you didn't, and you don't know why, learning something new like that, right? Learning more about your finances, kind of like it starts to open your eyes. But then you got to be careful, right? Because like when you start learning something new, sometimes you're injecting someone else's thoughts, right? Because your life is different than their life, and and someone can tell you how you're supposed to do something, but then that may not work as well. Like some things, the basics, right? They work. Like where they tell you, hey, you should spend less than you earn. I mean, obviously that's normal. If you spend like I said, if you only made $100, but you spent 105, it don't make sense. At some point, it's going to keep adding up. You're going to be in the hole by $5 every month, and it's going to keep building up until one day you got to pay the piper, right?
No.
So like, that's the common sense stuff. But then if you don't put it in someone's face that this is happening, and usually budgets do that, right? They put it in your face like, hey, have you realized that you're going in the hole every month doing the same thing when you can turn around and use that money in a more efficient way?
Yeah. No, and some people, they don't want to look at that, right? They really don't want to pay the piper or even acknowledge that they have to pay the piper, right? Then sometimes they like the ignorance that they're not tracking their money. But and it's kind of like you said, it's a case by case basis or per the person, right? And like you said, mint can be useful, can also be a little confusing to most. There's also another one called personal capital. That one's also another good one that people use. But and of course, manual is always a great way to do it. Of course, when you really want to like get down into the weeds of what you got, especially if you want to self-categorize everything for your likings. But yeah, I mean, to each their own, in my opinion.
Yeah. So I was looking up here, Investopedia, right? They have like the 8 best budgeting software for 2022. So they got one. They say best overall. You need a budget. So some of these I've never heard of. I will definitely take a look at after this. They have best for couples, Honeydew, which that sounds pretty cool, right? Best for college students, Pocket Guard. Best for families, Every Dollar. Best for investors, Personal Capital. Best for saving, Albert. Best for beginners, Mint. Obviously, at that time, I was a beginner, so I definitely needed it. And then they had like best free option, was Good Budget. Yeah, so a lot of these I haven't heard before. I actually going to start to take a look into them after this, but I might use one or two. But I still kind of like the manual because one, it gave me another skill, which was learning how to use Excel. So that's a
rough skill to get, man.
So I was like, I could try this. Let me do it. So actually, I was learning a few things, like even like doing drop downs and doing
creating your own formulas.
Creating my own formula. So stuff like that, which actually, like I said, you never know. You might need that skill on the job, right? Or your business. So yes. Those are something I'm probably, those softwares I'm probably going to take a look at.
I will say I've used Excel, like not for my own personal like finance or budgeting, but when I'm budgeting for trips and stuff, like when it's like a group trip or something, and like other people are paying towards it. I found like a few good like formulas to kind of figure out how to divvy it out between the people and how everyone's gonna like pay back whomever is like doing like say if one person's doing the like, of course, only one person can pay towards like the actual group flight or whatever it is, but how that person's gonna get paid back and stuff, and like how much everyone owes, and like for like hotels and stuff. But I did like Excel a lot for that.
Yeah. So when it comes to like keeping up with your own money, right? I know you mentioned that you do the 50, 30, 20 rule. Like how does that work, right?
So I actually don't do the 50, 30, 20 rule. But that was one that I actually gave to my parents. And I think I may have done it like a while back when I first started, but I found out like really quickly that it wasn't really for me. But it's a good starting point, kind of like how we said, like for those different softwares, like Mint is good for beginners, right? It's a good starting point, right? But it's not a place to kind of stay at. So the 50, 30, 20 rule for budgeting specifically is 50% should be spent on your needs, right? So things that you actually do need, you need to pay your rent or mortgage, right? You need to pay your utilities, you need to pay for groceries, for gas, for car insurance. Those are your needs, right? And then 30% should be spent on your wants, right? So going out to restaurants, in my opinion, is a want, right? Where groceries is actually a need. While they're both food, one is definitely a want and one is a need, like I said, in my opinion. So like restaurants, leisurely travel, going out, just regular entertainment, movies, stuff like that, that's your wants. And then 20% should be not spent, but saved, right? That should be either put into a savings account or saved to pay off debts at some point. And the reason why I kind of don't like that is because I think the ratio's a little skewed. I don't think people should be spending half of their income on their needs. Personally, I think and I see why that is, and the reason why it is because typically people's housing, and then this is just like the statistic, is that typically people's housing is about 30 to 33% of their income. So about a third of their income is spent on where they live, right? So of course that will give you that buffer to get up to 50% of your income for where you live, and the other stuff like utilities and car, gas, and groceries, right? So I definitely understand that, and I just didn't want to stick with that. But it is a good starting point. Like, and I will say a lot of people, they probably don't only spend 50% on what they need. They probably spend closer to like 70% on everything. And I think a lot of it is because they kind of miss out on the saving part of it. So they'll spend almost everything kind of on their needs and wants, and maybe not forget, or maybe just kind of blank out on saving money in general, right? Because one of my sayings is that, people don't have savings accounts, they got spending accounts, right? So so by that rule, just kind of adjust your spending, right? Is that if you're spending more on your quote unquote needs, then you may need to readjust something, right? And that might be like, what type of groceries are you getting? What type of, like, gas are you getting? Like the 87, or are you getting like the 93, right? For restaurants and stuff, maybe not go out as much. I don't know, it really depends on like how you really want to gear it. So like what I did is that I wanted to knock out my housing, right? So I made sure that whatever it was, I definitely didn't want to spend like 30 to 33%. I wanted to spend more than like, or 20%, right, of my income on housing. So that was like one way I reduced that. Groceries and stuff, I mean, it's just me and my girl, so I don't spend a ton amount, and I don't get like a lot of like the pre-cooked foods and stuff, like the stuff you'll find in the frozen. I always try to get like the single ingredient foods, and of course make my own stuff like gas. I have a hybrid for a reason, because I was spending too much on gas on my old Mustang. But yeah, no, and then kind of go on through that, and then your wants probably also weigh a lot. Like I said, the restaurants, the entertainment and stuff, the stuff that you actually don't need to live life, to thrive in life, right? The stuff that, maybe just kind of you enjoy doing, right? And granted, probably during COVID you weren't able to do all those things, but except streaming services, so that probably cut down on a lot of people's expenses. And then, but saving for me was a bigger one. I wanted to spend, or not spend, I wanted to put a lot more money towards saving, whether that was a 401k, whether that was towards a savings account, whether that was towards an IRA, right? Just because I became like a hoarder of money, I guess. Right. And I'm not like physical money. I wasn't putting stuff in my mattress or anything, right? But I would just wanted to kind of keep money, but that was more of like a sense of lack, right? Because growing up without money, you kind of want to keep as much as you have.
Scarcity,
the scarcity mindset, and having or without having stuff. But I tried to, or I slowly got away from that mindset, and decided to use it to purchase assets. Right. So I typically, I don't have a spending account, and I don't really have a savings account. I have like an investing account, right, where I put money towards investments, whether that's, like I said, like through an IRA, through my 401k, or through properties, whatever that is. But yeah, what about you, man? What was your, because I know you were talking about it earlier, like your 10% of your income and stuff.
Yeah. Well, the thing is, I like that 10% rule, because I feel like that's the one that anyone could use, right? The first one I tried was the 60-40, right? Where you kind of like the sense where you're saying 50% is going to your lifestyle. Yeah. So 60% will go to your lifestyle, and then 40% will go towards all your different saving, vehicles that you have, right? And that was, like I said, 401k, it could be personal savings account, family savings account, personal spending, whatever, right? That's where the rest of the 40% went. But that was, like I said, I think that is when I know you're making a decent income, right? I think at that time, I didn't have a lot of expenses when I did that rule. And my income wasn't bad. It wasn't awesome either, but because I didn't have a lot of, my expenses were actually pretty low, that it worked out. But I think the one that I like, and this is also in the Richest Man in Babylon, and it's it basically, they called it 1/10, what I'm saying, but it basically meant 10%, right? So the 10% rule is, of 10% of anything that you earn, you should keep for yourself, right? And if you keep it not for spending, but to get yourself out of debt or to invest in something else, it's one of those ways that help you climb out of the hole when you feel like you have nothing, right? And that's why I like that rule, because it works for anybody. If you can't pull 10% from your money, then something has to go. So you have to cut something, something. Yeah. And if you just automatically pull that 10% like it's a bill, and then look what's left over and see what is unnecessary, and you'll see what you need to cut. And that's why I like that one, especially starting out, because it's like you can't run from that, right? That kind of tells the truth. If you can't pull 10% of your money to help you, then something's wrong, right? Yeah, because then everybody will say the same thing. Oh, I have no room, right? But then there's something somewhere. So it's kind of like how I would tell people to do. So if once you do that 10% and you see that you still owe a bill, then you have to raise your income. You have to figure out how to pull in more money, and that way how it keeps you moving forward.
Yeah, and I think it depends, right? Because even people that raise their income, there's a thing called lifestyle inflation.
Yeah.
Right. Where they could be making as much money, right? But it doesn't matter because they'll never budget out, or they'll never save the money, because they know that they have more money, so they'll just spend more money. Yeah. Right. And it just becomes this like vicious cycle of like, I can go get more money, but I'll just keep spending it. Right. Yeah. And that's what's called lifestyle inflation.
Yeah. Inflation, lifestyle creep. Yeah. But again, if you use that 10% rule, that's one of those things, right? When you go back and look at the end and you're like, oh, I didn't realize I had $200 in subscriptions, you know what I'm saying? Or $300 in subscriptions. You're like, well, I don't need that many, because I don't have time to look at all this stuff or whatever, all this content I have, And so, and that's a way you can cut back, like, okay, well, let me chop these down, because you could do one of those things where if it's subscriptions, right, and you don't, they don't link to anything like your lights or anything that's important, right? You just cut them and see which one works for you, right? Like, or I guess what causes some kind of issue, right? Which I doubt any subscription will cause you any issue unless it, maybe it's the exterminator, right? You got your, because you pay that every month, and that might, eventually become an issue, but not always, especially if you're a clean person, But
even like the gym, right? A lot of people, they pay for a gym membership, they don't ever go to the gym.
But again, that's something you can cut, right? You cut it and then you come back to it later, right? You go like, hey, all right, well, I have been going to the gym, I miss it, right? But if you don't go to the gym and you cut it, you can tell you didn't go to the gym even when I'm in that dilemma sometimes. I'm like, all right, I enjoy the gym, but I don't particularly like this gym, but it's cheap. So, but I still go to the gym, but I'm not enthused about going to the gym. So then I only go maybe 2 or 3 times out of the week, and the other time I would love to go almost every day. But it's I think they have apps for that too, for your subscriptions, right? You can find out, so you can figure out what's important to you. But
like, hey, you still have the subscription, do you actually actively use this? Because like they'll actually tell you like, hey, you have like, they'll have like a specific category for subscriptions, and they'll kind of just like break it down for you, like what your monthly subscriptions typically look like. And some of them I think you can even like cancel through them. Like you don't even have to go through that specific subscription service. Like you'll send through, I think some of them are like through your banks or through your credit card companies or whatever. They'll monitor it. But I think that's a cool little feature that they have.
And that's the only reason why I was like, saying that 10% rule is pretty good for all, is because that's where it kind of will show you where the holes are, right? So and for me, I do the 20%, right? I try to do 20% and save that pretty much of anything that I pull in. So if it's a bonus or whatever, right? Whatever comes in, then 20% of that money goes to a separate account that's going to be for later on used for investment. So, and that's how I was doing it, right? Because I pull in other income just to do, like I said, it's all for investments, but it all gets sticks to the side.
Yeah,
But
no, for me personally, I'll be fairly transparent. I think out of my income, I'll spend like for my wants and needs, like
yeah,
on average, maybe like a third or a fourth,
yeah,
right? I don't, I try not to spend a lot of money intentionally. Like
yeah,
I make sure, like, and granted that may sound restricting, but that's just part of my goal set, right? Like my goal is to have a certain amount of properties, or is to put my money towards something that'll also build me more wealth. And granted, like I always say, it's never just for me, right? It's always going to be for my legacy and for my future. So I always have that mindset that, hey, just because I'm getting this money, I may not always have this money, but I know if I buy assets, I will have those assets for however long, and I'll be able to pass those on to the future. So that's just the way I see my income, or the cash flow that I receive.
well, I mean, and again, you use that word restriction. It's not a restriction. If for
Right.
your lifestyle, that is not a restriction. So you're actually putting a goal in front of you, saying,
Mm,
"Hey, this is what I want to do." It requires sacrifice, yes,
mm,
but not a restriction. Your money is not a prisoner to whoever, right?
mm.
Yet you are putting your money to work for you, but it requires you to control it. So
Mm.
that is the only thing.
Control,
Yeah, there you go.
control. Oh,
Yeah. So
that's a good word to change mindsets too. Is that you're not restricting yourself, you're controlling yourself. You're controlling your money,
yeah,
to do things for you, right?
yeah,
Whatever
exactly.
your goal set is.
Yeah, because you don't want to be in a situation where you're retiring and all you have is your savings that you did, right? You
Yeah.
and your savings is it's good for you, right? It's a good safety net. It's a good way to live. But then if you put your money to work for you to do something when you're not working because you're retired, your savings will stay as a safety net, and you're still pulling in income just as if you were still working every day. But
Mm,
because you're controlling your money, telling your money, I want you to do this for me, now
mm.
you're going to be in a better position later on in life.
Yeah. Yeah. No doubt. No doubt.
Yeah. So, yeah. So I guess we were already talking about like personal tips and tricks, the things that keep us,
Yeah.
in order. I guess we continue on that. But like I said, I pulled 20% of everything, but that's not all the money I save. I save more money.
Mm,
It's just I do that to prove, especially to myself, that I can use this money to do what I wanted to do. So it's going to be set to the side. I think I even told you before. I delete the app. Only time I put the app on is if I need to grab a statement or if I need to get the what is it, the tax form, and
mm,
then I delete the app again after I'm done. And then
mm,
so it's just so I don't see the money and the money,
mm.
and I'm not going
Okay.
to yeah, because I'm not going to touch the money until either the end of the year or this year. I think I'm making it. My birthday is the end date, right?
Mm.
So my
Yeah. Yeah.
birthday next year is when I'll take a look at the money, or sorry, I have to look at it regardless when I get my statement. But like, when I won't touch the money
Mm.
until my birthday, next year.
Mm. Yeah,
Yeah,
no, so and I kind of do something silly. So I have a few different like banks, right? Or
yeah,
credit unions that I use. It just became that way. But what I kind of did was that one of them I hardly ever look at, just because that's not where like a lot of my money goes, or where I thought not where I thought not a lot of my money went.
yeah,
For some reason it does now. But because I used one bank because it was just so much easier just to use one, and that one just pays off like all my credit cards, because like you said, I just use credit cards and I just pay them off every month. So I would only pay attention to that one, and then even though I have Mint and stuff, I was noticing it go up, and I was like, where the heck is this money? And then I would open the app to the other bank, and I was like, oh shoot, I've. But like I said, it was just like so like out of there that I just never touched it, and
yeah,
it's such a pain to like move stuff out of your savings nowadays, unless you like go to the place and you try to pull it out as like a check or a money order or whatever it is. But
yeah,
yeah, so I was like, yeah, that just became my thing to where I just wouldn't pay attention to it, and it just kept growing and growing. So I've had that, and then stuff like my 401k, I look at it, but not often, and that's kind of what it's for, right? You kind of just
yeah,
put money towards it, and then you kind of just let it be, right? But I try to readjust the budget on there, or not the budget, but readjust the allocation of assets on there.
Yeah.
So like every quarter, I can do like a rebalance and stuff or to the assets I have in there. But yeah, I try for like a lot of the stuff that I'm like saving or money that I'm saving, like, or like not actively spending, I should say. I try to like kind of keep it out of my mind, or keep it out of sight, out of mind, right?
Yeah.
Because that kind of just helps me um make sure that even if I need the money, like unless I really need the money, like emergency, if I need the money for something that I want, right, then I don't even think that money is an option, right? Because in my opinion, it really isn't, because that's not what that money was there for. Like I said, it's made, or it's there for a certain goal, and if that need or want doesn't meet that certain goal, then it's not. Then, like I said, it's not an option to spend that money.
But see, that's the thing. You built yourself up for that now, right?
Yeah.
And that's the thing. Everyone have to do that. Build themselves up to understand what is a need and want. Because you're like the worst convincer of yourself, right? If you have this object in front of you and you go like, well, I deserve it. I work hard and I do this. You're convincing yourself that you need to spend the money when you don't need to spend the money, right? Now it's different if you go like, all right, let me just relieve a little pressure. Let me buy this, but the money's coming from here. I think I was listening to one where they do. If you're gonna buy something, you gotta save twice as much money to go get it, and you take the other half. Yeah, go take the other half of the money and invest it. Right. Like, so you got, everyone has these different methods, right? How they try to approach not feeling like you're restricting yourself, because you need to relieve some pressure. Now, some people they kind of been raised that way, right? To never spend.
Yeah.
But then at some point in their life, they have to learn how to become a spender, right? Especially if their income, they're not pulling in income anymore, and they are one of those people that live off all their savings that they put away for all those years. So then they got to learn how to be spenders, because now that money has to take care of the mortgage, if you still have a mortgage. If you don't have a mortgage, which some people do that, right? They get rid of all debt before they retire, so they can literally live the cheapest that they can, and live off that money they squirreled away. But like, again, like how I approach some of these things, like it's basically like how you're saying with it, that mental strength. Like, is this a need or is this a want? All right, what if it doesn't fit in my category, it has to get pushed to the side, and then I'll budget for whatever it is. Now, I'm not going to say I'm perfect. I feel like no one's perfect. So I will slip, because I am human, right? But then I know to recover. I know there should be a pot that I have. So I have different accounts. The money should come from some kind of pot. It should be coming from somewhere. Or how like some people are, don't spend don't count your chickens before your eggs hatch, right? That saying, right? Yeah. And I have put myself in that situation, which they've still all worked out. Like, if I know I have money coming in because I know I'm gonna work something or do something on this certain day, and go like, okay, well, I'm gonna use that to pay off whatever, right? And that's exactly what I do. And what they call that earmarking your money for a certain situation, right? Which is another tip, right? To handling with the budget, right? To make sure you knock out certain things, make sure you pay off, or make sure your money's just not escaping you.
Yeah.
Again, like, and when the budget, you got a budget for kids, right? So when you get to a certain point, you're gonna have to do that, right? You got to budget for your kid. Just like today, took them out for a day on the town, and my end result is them going to sleep. So like,
there you go. Well, and like the way I heard it, like when I was first getting into real estate and stuff, is that this person did is that they had certain things that each property kind of paid off, right? So like for his kids, he has like I think for his daughter, he has like tennis lessons, right? He has a specific property that basically pays off her tennis lessons, right? Okay. And then for like I think he puts them through like private school, right? He has a certain amount of properties that will pay off their private school, right? So he just made sure that every property had a purpose, right? And granted, and they use properties. You don't have to use properties, right? And this has nothing to do with budgeting in general. Yeah. But that was just like the mindset that they had. So hopefully I want to be in that position to, like, for leisure and stuff, have something, a property or something pay for it.
Well, I mean, that is budgeting, right? The budget is basically, like I said, it's a picture of everything you have coming in, right, and going out. But if you create a bigger budget by adding in more income somewhere or creating different pots for the money, you've created a system. All right. So this is your budgeting system, how to handle this for the for the future or for the time being. Because we have a family savings account also, right? It's separate from the other savings accounts. And what I would do is like, okay, we want to go to the movies or we want to go on a family trip. That's where the money comes from. So I try to put money into that account. So it's already earmarked for family things that's going on, right? That leisure time that we have. So and again, that's why you again, what we said before, right? Having control over your money. Your money is a tool, using it to do the things you want it to do. Not you be a slave to your money, where you go to work every day just so your money can get away from you.
No, and like you said, it is a tool, right? Just like a hammer is a tool, right? You use a hammer to knock out a nail or to smash in a nail, right? You use your money in a very similar fashion. You use your money to purchase what your necessities are, right? To invest your money on assets, whatever that is. And I think a lot of people, and maybe it's not specific to budgeting or anything, but just how they see money is that they put it on a pedestal, right? So they'll work however long it is just to get money, and then they'll spend it just as quickly as they got it, right? Or even quicker, right? Because you could spend money every day, and if you work like a 9 to 5, or if you're like a regular W-2 employee, you're not getting money every day, right? Like it's not going into your bank account every day. So having a budget really helps you kind of understand that those timelines, right? So like, of course, rent and mortgages are typically due the first of the month. You always don't get paid on the first of the month, right? You typically get paid like either bi-weekly, 1st and 15th, whatever that looks like for you, right? So you have to understand how to make sure that you have enough cash or have enough money to knock out those bills, right? Sometimes utilities are due in the middle of the month, right? How are you going to make sure that you have enough money to knock out those utilities, right? And then hopefully you don't spend it between those times, right? To where you have money in the account to do that. And that's just what budgeting does, right? It just kind of helps you track everything that you have, what's coming in and going out, and making sure you're very cognizant of what your money is doing, or what you're doing with your money, I should say.
Yeah. And one of the things that I used to do in the past, right? I used to, in a sense, give myself this picture, but it was such a shallow picture of my money, right? I literally went down, like I wrote what my income was, and then I wrote what my bills were, and I stopped there, right? And then, but then if you stop there, you kind of, it kind of gets in the weeds of like, what are you doing every day? All right. Like, what about that trip that you took to the grocery store, right? That extra trip, right? That what about that extra tank of gas or whatever, right? Like, if you don't kind of like look and see what you're doing with the money throughout the week or throughout the month, right? I mean, I'm not saying take a look at every day, but like knowing that it has a place, so you in that budget, so you can know, hey, all right, well, so it's not true, right? That I spent $200 on gas, right? So it was actually true that I spent $350 on gas, right? You know what I'm saying? Like, and in those things, you go like, okay, then that's where my money went, right? And it kind of does that for you, instead of going like, I don't have money to do this. I need more money. I need to get paid more money. But then in reality, if you can't control what you already have, then more money is not going to help the problem. And I think you said it before, right? Money don't fix money problems, right?
No, that is definitely a saying that I live by. And another tip that I typically use is what I did with my accounts and stuff in my 2 different like bank or credit union accounts, is that I named them, right? So kind of like how, going back to where I said like each property has a purpose, every one of my accounts has a purpose, and I make sure to name them accordingly. So when I had a car loan, I named it exactly that, right? So I'd put money into this specific account that was for the car loan, and then every month it would just take out of that one account, right? I have an account for if I need to do any repairs for my car, I make sure to budget that. If I have to do any repairs for the house, I make sure to budget for that. Right. If I want to take a vacation, that's a specific account. Right. So I don't just have one savings account that just kind of envelops everything. I have multiple accounts that have specific purposes, and that isn't necessarily in my budget, but I make sure to kind of account for those different situations that I could need money, right? Because to me, like, an emergency is an emergency, yes, but not each one is treated the same, right? So like having to fix a car, having to fix a house are definitely different in costs, right? Like if I have to fix a car, like, or even like doing like an oil change, right? Doing an oil change is a lot different than having to do like Freon in your AC units, right? So that's why I wanted to be very intentional on what I was naming my accounts and what I was putting money toward.
Yeah, that's a good point, because I don't necessarily deal with that, and that's the reason why I'm glad that you brought that up. For me, I use sweat equity in place of certain emergencies like that. So I actually work on my own cars. I'm pretty handy with stuff like that. For a long time, especially during college, I kind of picked up a wrench and got to work, because like you can't always depend on a mechanic to help you with everything. Now I certain things, I don't have my own welding machine, right? So like if my exhaust needs to get put on, I'm probably going to go, unless it's a bolt on, I'm probably going to go to a shop. I don't have a tire mounter and balancer, so I'm gonna go to the tire shop to get my tires, right? But again, it's one of those things, like I'm gonna budget for those things. But usually all my other things, oil changes, I mean, honestly, I don't normally do my Freon. I might refill it. I don't actually do the whole vacuum out everything and put new Freon in. What is that? Brakes? I do my own brakes. If it's an oil leak, I fix my own oil leak. So those things I actually get into. So and I think that's why it helps me on that point with budgeting. And I forget that your normal everyday person still doesn't use sweat equity for everything, that for those emergencies, right? They actually depend on an actual account for that.
I'm one of them. I can tell you that.
So certain house things, right? I'm not gonna call somebody for every house thing, because I'm gonna put a little sweat equity in there. I'm gonna pick up some YouTube or pick up a book. I'm saying, like and take a look at it and see what can I do. Before
fix that hole in the wall that your kids made, and
before I call somebody out for it, right? Now certain things I want done professionally, so I'm for sure going to call somebody for that, right? And again, what you say, hey, you got a budget for that. You gotta go like, well, I do have an amount of money for that. But we also have insurance to cover certain things, so and that's what and that's all part of the budget, right? Making sure you have good insurance, make sure you're making that accordingly. So yes, budgets are important. So I guess I got to reel that back in. Budgets are important, right? They're not a restriction of your money. All right. And then, the reason why we say budgets are important, before you can start working on your credit, you got to learn how to control your money. Because especially if you're a person that needs to rebuild your credit, one of your issues may have been your budget. And you didn't have any control over your money, and you let your money escape you. And then you also allow someone to give you money that wasn't yours, and you use that to mess up your credit. And now it's time to rebuild, which that's why we have a segment on that coming up, man. But for any beginner who's new to credit, first step, budget. Learn how to learn how to use your money first before using someone else's money.
There you go. And that's a great saying to say. And the thing is, it'll definitely tie in when we start talking about credit. And like you said, be very mindful of how you use your money before you start using someone else's money, because that's what credit is. It is technically not yours. It is someone else's or tomorrow's money. Right. So if you don't learn a budget and you end up utilizing too much of your credit, then you could dig yourself into a really deep hole at some point.
All right, man. So we're gonna start heading to our Frugal and Cheap segment.
Frugal and Cheap.
Yeah. I don't know how many people do this. I think I've heard of it before, right? A good way to save water: stop the shower in between soap lathering and shampoo.
Yeah, man. So no, I didn't do this personally, but no, I remember my parents, man, when I was younger, they would do that and stuff, and like I kind of built that habit when I was younger, but of course I got away from it. But like during the shower, of course, kind of soak yourself and then turn it off, do like your shampoo, do all your stuff, and then turn it back on. And I'm like, yeah, no, that sucks, because like when you turn it back on, you get all the cold water and stuff on you. But I can see that how it is. It can be frugal, but I think the better thing to do is, one, get better nozzles for your showers. Right. So there's this thing called gallons per second. Right. So you can look at your shower heads and you can find ones that have a lower gallons per second, meaning how many gallons is coming out of that shower head. Okay. And instead of having to turn on and turn off, while I'm not saying that's incredibly cheap, I want to say it's probably closer to frugal. That is a alternative to just turning it on and off.
Well, yeah, probably buying the shower head is frugal, but just turning the water off, if you don't have any water restrictions, it's probably just being cheap. I mean, it's my personal opinion. That's how this works anyway. The frugal and cheap is kind of like what we think and what everyone thinks, But I think
we'll see what the people in the comments say about that. I'll go towards frugal, maybe because I lived through it. But like I said, there's an alternative to doing that, and that is getting better shower heads for your showers. Yeah. But I mean, if you're, I guess, and granted, you'd probably have to be budgeting to figure out that you're spending that much money. I don't know, man. Like, I don't know where water costs a great amount that you'd have to shut off your water and then shut it on. I'm pretty sure you're taking quick showers anyways, so you could probably just run it for like a couple more seconds.
Unless you're saving the hot water, so you got a small hot water heater and you're trying to save water.
Well, then just go up to the hot water heater and turn it down to like I don't know, maybe 80 degrees is the hottest you can get. I don't know.
But I say cheap, you say frugal. All right. Well, we have to see what people think on that one. All right. Well, thank you everyone for listening. This is Craig and Jay signing off the Troubleshooting Like podcast. We'll see you next week. Please subscribe and like.
See you next week.